Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 356, Revolution. Edward POV. Why now? Vanessa asked after we kissed, her curiosity evident. You didn't respond to any of my advances in the past few years. It feels sudden. She leaned in closer, pressing her body against mine as she sat on the office couch. Is it because I'm prettier now? I chuckled and brushed her hair behind her ear. Remember 4 months ago when I went to Worcestershire? Yes. She nodded slightly, clenching her fist against her chest in anticipation. Well, remember when you tried to pronounce it? That's the reason why. Vanessa exclaimed, aghast. Annoyance was palpable in her expression, and I couldn't help but laugh at her reaction. While I found her numerous attempts to say the word correctly endearing, the actual reason for my change of heart was something deeper. At that time, I was left alone in England. Everyone had something to do. Max had returned to New York, Sage couldn't take the cold winter air anymore and went back to California, and Randall was busy preparing my concert venue in Bulgaria. Vanessa had come to England to keep me company, even though I never asked for it. She was like Joy from Blade Runner 2049, saying, "You look lonely." I hadn't realized it then, but that's when I started to fall for her. Worcester sister, HH. I give up! Vanessa exclaimed, wanting to stand up. I quickly grabbed her hand and pulled her closer. Lunch will be over in 5 more minutes. Let's just stay like this until I have to get back to work, I said affectionately. Vanessa was taken aback for a moment before she smiled and rested her head on my chest. Anyway, she suddenly elongated her words. I'll be your girlfriend, but we won't tell anyone about it yet. No. We're telling everyone, I replied playfully. Not yet. She glared at me adorably. Let's just wait and see if this works out first. You mean in public, right? We can tell our friends. I know for sure you'll tell Maggie. I confirmed with a teasing grin. Vanessa flinched slightly before trying to play it cool, saying, I won't tell her. I promise I won't tell her. Are you sure? I asked with mock seriousness. I'm positive, she replied, her eyes darting away. Vanessa had a script reading for her new project, so she left shortly after lunch. 10 minutes later, I received a text message from Maggie. See? You can't stop yourself from telling her. I smiled to myself as I read her message, asking me to confirm if Vanessa and I had started dating. I sighed heavily before typing my response. What will Vanessa think when I ghost her for a week after we finally get together? Placing my fingers on my chin, I mumbled. I guess I should turn it into a 9 to 5 thing. Can a revolution be successful if I only do it from 9 to 5? Let's just see what happens first. After deciding one difficult thing, I sighed as I had to face another. Now that I'm official, I guess I should stop meeting up with those girls, huh? As I said goodbye inwardly to the 6-person idol group in Japan and a couple of my friends with benefits, I checked the time for my departure. I should go to Cuba now. The preparation is done, so I guess I can handle it in a week? Slightly unconfident, I added. Hopefully. I really want to take a vacation. General POV. A week ago in Cuba, Wu Jin, Edward's personal android bodyguard and one of his creations, met inside an empty church. Wu Jin sat behind the tall, tan man with scruffy hair and an extremely muscular body. The sunlight penetrated the colored glass, staining the inside of the church with various hues. Sato, Bleach, are you ready? Wu Jin asked the introverted man. Sato replied, I'm ready. Call me Fernando while we're here. Wu Jin nodded slightly in agreement. Then, The air turned awkward again between the two as they have the same personality type. They only talked if it was absolutely necessary for them to. A local guide rushed into the church and ran straight to the duo. The man with a bloated belly panted heavily as he said, "The secret police are coming. Both of you need to get out of this town now." Sato and Wu Jin glanced at each other and exchanged a subtle nod. "Thank you for your warning, Yaniel," Wu Jin said to him with a soft smile. "You're an honest man," he added. Yaniel exclaimed with disbelief. "You need to run. Once they catch you, they will beat you up and may even kill you. You started a fight with them, one fight that you won't ever win. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do better than take a beating," Sato said as he walked out of the church. "I'm the one they want. I won't drag all of you into this. You beat them up because they tried to assault our village's girls. They're the ones who are at fault, yet we're the ones who have to suffer? Unless someone stands up to them, that will always be the case," Wu Jin said to Yaniel as Sato left the church. Yaniel, a hardcore supporter of the regime, began to see cracks in his beliefs and the authoritarian reality he was living in. At a Cuban university, 02 disguised herself as a lecturer and began inciting the students toward revolution by teaching them the history of the world, the weaknesses of the government, the corruption within it, and more. After a week of lectures, the entire university felt like a bomb waiting to explode. The fuse was lit when the secret police came and arrested the lecturer. As she struggled and tried to escape, they placed a bullet between her eyebrows while being watched by the entire student body. The police had no idea what prompted him to do that. It was like his entire body was taken over by a different person. A riot erupted, and the government shut down the internet and phone networks. However, thousands of illegal Starlink SIM cards were distributed, and a local man, guided by someone in the shadows, created VPN software to bypass Cuba's restrictions. A documentary team led by the Mad Dog Media Company began reporting on the unfolding events in Cuba while simultaneously documenting the entire revolution. A government official attempted to get ahead of the scandal and address the public through a state speech. However, during his address, it became apparent that he couldn't hide the truth. A Mad Dog reporter barraged him with questions, exposing incriminating evidence. "Why did you kill Professor Agueda?" the reporter asked, referring to the disguised 02. "The pink-haired android was actually waiting for a chance to kidnap a military general, while everyone was mourning her death," the short-statured man with a white mustache replied, because she refused to keep her mouth shut. His answer fueled the raging fire in the students' hearts. The riots escalated into insurrection, evolving into revolution. Down with the regime! Viva la Revolution! A 20-year-old hot-headed young man with a crush on the professor threw a rotten egg on the government official's head. The regime soldiers were quickly dispatched to regain control of the situation. However, when they reached the crowd, they soon discovered that they couldn't shoot their rifles. "Ah, they really tried to kill the protesters, huh? Dumb move," Edward muttered as he hid among the crowd, wearing his Inaki disguise and secretly casting a spell. Fire silence, Academy undercover professor, to disable the firearms. Even without rifles, the well-trained soldiers posed a threat to the ordinary people. However, Sato took the lead and became a shield that separated the two parties. People knew him from clips of him fighting the secret police with his bare hands, and he alone could handle a group of 30 soldiers. Starting as a village legend, he became a renowned figure in the country. During the protests, he protected the organizers of the revolution multiple times, and his fame grew rapidly, prompting people to trust him in the confrontation against the regime. "Fernando! Fernando! Fernando! Fernando!" People chanted his name as he threw a fist at the final soldier's face. After a thorough investigation, it was revealed that Fernando held a PhD in economics from the University of Tokyo. Edward felt a pang of guilt as he brainwashed a couple of hundred people to have the memory of Sato using his Sharingan. He also published several dissertations under Sato's pseudonym, and connected him with various elites from different backgrounds around the world, which made his status viable as someone who could take over the country. Politics were all about connections, after all. In the present day, at an inpatient facility in Canada, Edward's aunt, Camilla Monroe, brought a laptop into the ward and placed it in front of Miranda. Miranda was hooked up to N4 drip, her eyes dazed and her cheeks sunken. Her collarbones and ribs were visible. Camilla grabbed a brush and helped Miranda with her hair as she watched the laptop screen. "What is this?" Miranda asked, her sanity briefly returning. Camilla replied, "Edward gave it to me. He said to wait until it's time." "Until it's time for what?" Miranda asked, slightly disappointed. "He's already broken his promise to me," she added, turning her head away from Camilla. Camilla sighed and said, "First of all, asking him to take down a regime, something even the American government couldn't do in over 60 years, is not feasible in the first place." The laptop screen suddenly turned on, broadcasting footage straight from Cuba's capital. Both Miranda and Camilla were taken aback by the suddenness. Miranda stared at the screen intently, trying to understand what was happening. Edward snuck inside the Capitol building where an emergency meeting was being held. "We need to shut down this revolutionary idea. We're prepared to use bombs." "Use bombs? Are you crazy? The people are angry enough as it is. We have no other choice. We've lost contact with all the soldiers we've sent out. Reports indicate they've chosen the side of the revolution." The regime president sat silently as his generals bickered. "I can't shake the feeling that a certain party is pulling the strings behind all of this. It might be the CIA." One general slammed the table, addressing the president directly. "We must contact our allies and retaliate against the Americans," another shouted. "Why aren't you saying anything?" His closest confidant lost his temper as he watched the president remain silent throughout the meeting. "Because he thinks everyone here is a moron," Edward suddenly chimed in, revealing himself from behind the president, holding the regime ruler's shoulder with his left hand. "Who the fuck are you?" one of the generals asked angrily. He drew a gun from his holster and aimed it at Edward. "You dare insult me? You're asking for death. Did you perhaps just come out of a Chinese cultivation series?" Edward snorted and laughed at the absurdity of the situation. "You still don't understand, do you?" The general's face flushed red with anger. He didn't care any more about the regime ruler. He pressed the trigger, wanting to kill the young man who dared insult him. The general was confused. He swore he had shot the pistol, yet the young man was still alive and laughing. He glanced at his gun to check if it was functioning properly. "Where is my hand?" His eyes widened in horror as he saw his hand had fallen to the floor, severed at the wrist. "Bastard! Demon! Monster!" They shouted insults in their anger, wanting to hit Edward, but those who dared to raise their hands lost them. After the fourth person became a one-handed man, the generals stopped trying and wanted to flee, but found that they couldn't move their legs. None of you here are innocent. I hope to save at least one person, but I guess I should have expected too much from this rotten institution," Edward mused before he activated his Sharingan. "From now until the revolution breaches the gates of the capital and takes power, there's a special punishment for you all. Demonic illusion, hell viewing technique." He activated a genjutsu technique that would pull the targets into their greatest nightmares. It didn't matter whether or not they were aware of what their fears were. For the next few hours, they would relive the illusion over and over again until all that was left was a husk of the men they used to be. Snakes. Snakes are everywhere. It's swallowing me whole. Fire, I'm being burned alive. Diddy, what are you doing with that baby oil? You swore you'd only do it once. Edward was a bit startled as he heard a bizarre nightmare among the cacophony of groans and shouts. He cleaned his ear with his finger and waited until Sato breached the capital. As he felt that his job was wrapping up, Edward changed the footage from outside the capital to the area where he was waiting. Miranda widened her eyes as she saw the image, her fingers trembling as she recognized the familiar faces around her son. "Kill them! Kill them all! She shouted urgently. Edward glanced at the camera and said casually, if you're saying something, just know that this footage is only one way. Anyway, the regime is falling today, so I've kept my promise. Call him now! Miranda begged Camila, desperately wanting Edward to finish off those people inside the room. Camila suddenly slapped Miranda, stunning her. She looked at her with disdain and said, I don't know what Edward did to get into that room, but Miranda, do you really want your son to kill people in cold blood? To become a murderer? Miranda stammered slightly but couldn't find an answer. Camila continued, He has done what you asked him to do. He kept his promise. You better keep yours and stay out of his life. I don't think I can do that. Miranda's voice shook as she began to choke her own neck. I did everything, just to return. But there's no place for me to return to anymore. Miranda! Camila quickly intervened, trying to stop her sister's recurrent self-harm episodes. But before she could pry her sister's bony fingers off her neck, Edward spoke on the footage. The protesters have breached the gates. My job is finally over. My eyes hurt so freaking much. There was a trail of dry blood beneath his eyes as he overexerted his abilities. Although his chakra levels were nearing depletion, Edward didn't feel tired. Instead, he was quite excited. After a hard-earned battle, it's time for a banquet and a song. Edward chuckled in anticipation before he left the house through the window. Less than 5 seconds later, Sato entered the room. A Mad Dog reporter filmed his breakthrough, closely following Sato as he entered. The elite powers of the country were gathered inside the room. Suddenly, the president declared, We surrender, shocking the entire civilian crowd. Arrest them all. Sato ordered his team of disguised mechanical soldiers. They handcuffed the generals and the leader one by one before escorting them out of the capital, while the entire crowd cheered at the sight. Fernando! 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 On the street next to the Capitol building, a huge crowd celebrated a successful revolution, something they had never imagined would actually come to pass. What was even more remarkable, no lives had been lost during the revolution. The news spread throughout the world. The US, in particular, wanted to intervene, disguising their intentions as offering help to stabilize the country. Russia was furious, considering all of their allies and connections in Cuba had been eradicated. Everyone! Pass out the beers. We're going to toast to the beginning of a new country. Edward, disguised as Inaki, handed out numerous beers and spent a lot of money to celebrate the success with the protesters. The problem was that there were around 200,000 people on the streets right now, celebrating their freedom from the oppressive regime. The crowd kept growing, and it was highly probable that they would stay out for the entire night. Suddenly, a young man wearing a straw hat jumped onto one of the vans located near the Capitol, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. Edward, still in his Inaki disguise, complete with sandals, a red vest, and short jeans, grabbed a microphone and spoke directly to the crowd. The vans beneath him were revealed to be a series of speakers strategically placed among the throng. Although the initial sound was shocking, it started out slow, allowing time for the crowd to create some space. After reaching a level where everyone could hear, Edward cast the sound amplification spell, Sonorous, modified version, he had received from the Gacha. This would help him control the sound waves around him, ensuring his voice wouldn't be drowned out by the sheer volume of human voices in the area. Viva la Revolution! He shouted in Spanish, which instantly reverberated through the crowd. Edward had to place a chakra barrier over his eardrums to prevent them from being damaged. El régimen ha terminado, Castro está arrestado. The regime is now over. Castro is arrested. The crowd cheered thunderously as Edward addressed the people in both English and Spanish. Sato would take over after he handled his affairs inside the Capitol building. There was a temporary unease before the current leader would share information, so Edward decided to placate the masses first while they waited. Mañana, un sistema de dos partidos tomará su lugar. Se llevará a cabo una elección burocrática en una semana, y el pueblo cubano finalmente elegirá un nuestro líder. Tomorrow, a two-party system will take its place. A bureaucratic election will be held in a week, and the Cuban people will finally elect our leader. We will adopt democracy for our country. Todos los canales de televisión ayudarán a difundir la información. Los detalles de los dos partidos se transmitirán mañana. Nuestro líder temporal, Fernando Torres, se encargará de toda la transmisión de mañana. Yo solo estoy aquí para transmitir la información de él. All of the TV channels will help in sending out the information. The details of the two parties will be broadcast tomorrow. Our temporary leader, Fernando Torres, will handle the entire broadcast tomorrow. I'm here only to convey the information from him. Edward used dual languages because he knew everything was being recorded and broadcast to the world. The current global landscape was in turmoil, with various revolutions and riots erupting, regimes being toppled, and civil wars raging. The Arab Spring was still ongoing, so international citizens were curious to see if Cuba would succeed where other revolutions had faltered. La comida y las bebidas serán distribuidas por la comunidad y los voluntarios que se han reunido para apoyarse mutuamente durante esta transición. Food and drinks will be distributed by the community and volunteers who have rallied together to support each other during this transition. The Androids and trustworthy locals began to distribute the food Edward had purchased a week earlier. Stalls were being set up where food was being cooked on the spot, with roasted goat and chicken added to the menu. One of the main factors behind the revolution had been the food shortage, so the sight of plentiful food greatly appeased their weary souls. Todos. Para comenzar el día de la mejor manera, cantaré una canción junto con la orquesta cubana, manténganse atentos para una actuación inspiradora que nos unirá a todos mientras celebramos nuestra recién encontrada libertad. Everyone! To start off the day right, I will perform a song together with the Cuban orchestra. Stay tuned for an uplifting performance that will unite us all as we celebrate our newfound freedom. As he spoke, the crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by Edward's words. The atmosphere was charged with excitement and anticipation. Edward spoke in English. 3 days ago, a Cubanese American singer uploaded a song to support us during our revolution. His name is Edward Newgate. Of course, Edward would not let the chance to promote his name go to waste. I will be singing that today to show him how much his support meant to us. This is also the song Fernando had been listening to constantly in the last 3 days. Without it, he might have even given up fighting the difficult fight. Wu Jin and Sato were astonished when they saw their master being frivolous when facing a crowd of 200,000 people. What the hell is he doing? 02 furrowed her eyebrows and was worried for Edward's safety. If the American government found out that he had interfered with another country's political strife, he would be greatly punished by them. Drums! Start! Edward sends the cues. The marching band marched to his side and began to circle the van he was standing on, hitting the drums in a perfect symmetry. The score, Revolution. Edward crooned charismatically, surprising the crowd with his unique voice.
All my wolves begin to howl, wake me up, the time is now.
The marching band acted as a choir, harmonizing beautifully as they sang the next verse.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming!
Edward took center stage.
Wide awake, the fever burns, sweat it out, wait my turn.
The choir chimed in.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming!
Edward continued.
All this doubt is creeping in, inside out, shed my skin.
The choir responded.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming!
Fireworks lit up the night sky far from the crowd as Edward performed passionately, a trail of excitement in the air. Holding his microphone with one hand, he used the other to guide the crowd, moving them up and down with the rhythm as he sang.
been waiting all my life to live when I've only been dreaming, get love when I've only been stealing.
As the beat intensified, Edward crooned loudly.
Can't let time keep passing me by. Run down what I've always been chasing, block out every fear I've been facing. All my wounds begin to howl, wake me up, the time is now.
He sang, rallying the choir once more. Choir.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
Edward passionately continued.
Things that turn me on, drag my dark into the dawn.
Choir.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
The decades-old wound began to heal with Edward's voice. Although they know that their struggle was far from over, the citizens of the country wanted to hold on to the hope that everything would get better. As the performance was broadcasted throughout the nation, the other 10.8 million people in the country, whose heart had been closed off, began to tear up and cheered for the revolution. Edward continued.
Body aches, I'm bound in chains, but there's a fire in my veins, yeah.
Choir.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
Edward raised his hand up, gesturing victory.
Like every king who lost the crown, and all those years are history now.
The choir. Edward smirked and took off his vest, revealing his skinny upper body.
I've been waiting all my life. Run down what I've always been chasing, block out every fear I've been facing.
With the marching band drumming and the choir singing, the entire scene became a historic moment for the world. Historians would later name the event the Bloodless Revolution Concert. The crowd joined Edward as he sang.
All my wounds begin to howl, wake me up, the time is now.
The choir joined in.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
Edward smiled at them, sweat dripping from his chin as he continued.
Things that turn me on, drag my dark into the dawn.
The choir echoed.
Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
An epic marching band performance took the stage for about a minute. Edward had trained the members intensively over the past week, so everyone worked together flawlessly, never missing a beat. The choir and the citizens sang together.
There's a revolution coming. There's a revolution coming. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
Edward took the stage again as the marching band finished their solo.
I'm rising up from the ground, from the bottom. Can't hold me down, hold me down. I'm rising up from the ground, from the bottom. Can't hold me down, hold me down, hold me down.
Even without Edward, the crowd continued to sing. He gazed at them with satisfaction and pointed his microphone at the audience, feeling the weight of controlling a crowd this size. Every effort had drained his stamina even before the concert began.
All my wolves begin to howl, wake me up, the time is now. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming. Wild things that turn me on, drag my dark into the dawn. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming.
Edward sat on the van, his legs dangling from the rooftop as he sang softly, bringing the song to a close.
There's a revolution coming. There's a revolution coming.
After finishing the song, Edward casually performed a few motivational songs from various artists before Sato arrived. Funding the revolution had cost him over $50 million. Another $50 million had gone to feed the crowd of 300,000 people. But Edward didn't care. The money didn't put a dent in his wealth. In fact, he considered it cheap to acquire a country in this way. You can leave the rest to us. You've done the best you can, even flying around the world searching for talents to help in the country's re-establishment. It's time for you to go back and rest, Sato said to Edward apologetically. Edward staggered as he walked toward the Quinjet. 02 would take him home. Oh, right. The Denmark delegation will arrive today to help you draft the constitution. Since we want to form a new government similar to theirs, I contacted them in advance, and they've agreed to assist. There will be remnants of the regime, third parties with dubious intentions, and disgruntled citizens who will try to sabotage your consolidation of power. So, act quickly and efficiently. I've already extracted data from the previous rulers. Use their hidden wealth as your initial funding. Edward continued to talk despite his fatigue, like a father reluctantly leaving his child to manage a difficult task alone. He felt anxious about leaving the country in the hands of his android at such a delicate time. They pocketed around $2 billion in black money, which is quite disappointing, to be honest. I've inflated it to about $30 billion, adding funds from my own slush funds. Sir, with all due respect, shut up and let us handle it. 02 interjected sharply, escorting Edward into the jet. The moment he lay down in the cargo area, he fell asleep. 2 years had passed by since Edward was tasked with an impossible mission. Despite having fun touring the world, the nagging thoughts kept tormenting him, not letting him fully relax himself. For the first time in 2 years, he couldn't hear the nagging anymore. Chapter 357 Worms. Edward POV. 3 days after the Cuban Revolution took place, Vanessa and I sat together on the living room couch at her place. She wore a large jersey with a tube top underneath and short pants, resting her legs on mine as we watched the morning news. Vanessa, Maggie, and a couple of other actresses lived together in the $30 million Beverly Hills mansion I had purchased a year ago. It was a French chateau with 8 bedrooms, 18 bathrooms, a swimming pool, a yoga room, a sauna, a spa, and a beauty salon for the girls. The blue roof and beige walls had attracted Vanessa to choose this place. Since the actresses under the agency needed to travel frequently, the house served as a temporary haven for them to unwind when they didn't have any scheduled appointments. While Vanessa had bought her own home, it was a penthouse in New York City instead of Los Angeles. Are you really not mad? I asked skeptically. Vanessa shrugged lightly and replied, I'm not mad. You have work to do. I've seen you work for years now, I know the drill. I smirked playfully. Really? You'd be getting the drill if you keep talking like this, you know that? So it's small and twisted? She grinned, teasing. It's not sharp, is it? Because that's a deal breaker for me. I pulled her in close and gave her a quick kiss. Vanessa giggled and said, But someday you're going to let me have a peek at your secret life, right? I don't want to be the dumb, bimbo trophy girlfriend who can't support what her boyfriend is doing. I thought about it for a moment and replied, Ben, do you want to shadow me today and see what I do all day? Vanessa's eyes lit up. Yes. I definitely want to. And then I'll sell the secret schedule to the CIA. I don't even need the extra money, I just want to do it for the giggles. Oh, really? You're already planning to betray me? I wrapped my arm around her waist, pulled her in close, and began to tickle her. Maggie unexpectedly walked toward us, scowling in disdain at our giggly, flirty exchange. No! I'll take it back. I'm not going to tell the CIA about it. Vanessa exclaimed, giving in, breathless from the tickle torture. As I stopped, she teased again. Maybe Interpol? Let's see what crimes you're committing first before I reveal it to the world. You're really bold to tell a criminal your exact plan and not expect any retribution from him. Maggie snapped. It's 10 in the morning. Don't make me throw up again. Maggie was wearing an oversized satin pajama set with nothing underneath. The see-through fabric would make a normal man drool, but I felt nothing but disdain for her. I turned to the hungover Maggie and scolded her. You kept drinking until you blacked out at clubs. Control yourself. Don't overindulge and become the new Hollywood brat. It was my friend's birthday party. I only let myself go a little bit. I'm not usually like this. Maggie defended herself and ran away to escape further criticism. You kinda are. I'm going to put you in rehab if you don't get it under control. I called after her. What time are we going to Grandpa's? Maggie shouted while pouring herself a cup of coffee from the kitchen. She returned to the living room but kept her distance to ensure she was close to her escape route. We were supposed to fly there an hour ago. I chastised her. Amy's already waiting at the hangar. Maggie snorted, saying, You could have woken me up as usual, but you wanted to spend some time with your girlfriend too, right? Don't put all the blame on me. Vanessa was astonished and said to Maggie, Didn't you remember our wake-up call? Edward almost broke the lock on the door. You replied and said you were awake, so we waited in the living room. Really? Maggie was taken aback. When she saw my annoyed expression, she immediately felt anxious and ran away. Give me 10 minutes. I'll get ready now. I turned to Vanessa and asked, Do you want to meet my grandparents? Vanessa widened her eyes, saying meekly, Are we already at that stage in our relationship? We wanted to take it slow, right? I rolled my eyes. You visited my grandparents last month because you missed them and even stayed at the ranch for a few days. So we've definitely passed that point in our relationship. Vanessa added a beanie and long sweatpants to her outfit before following us back to the ranch. After our plane landed at the airport, we transferred to a helicopter and flew for 10 minutes to reach the ranch. I had arranged a helicopter landing pad near my grandparents' house, as I couldn't afford to waste another hour driving there by car. Upon arrival, we met my grandparents and enjoyed lunch together before I went horseback riding with my grandpa in the pasture. Vanessa wanted to join us, but my grandmother dragged her away to help with preparations. Moo! The cows rushed toward where my grandpa and I had stopped the horses. I jumped down from the saddle, gave the horse a carrot treat, and walked over to the cows. They're enormous! I exclaimed in astonishment as I gazed at the new batch of cows. They were 1.5 times larger than a typical cow. My grandpa chuckled. Really? You're surprised? I thought you had a hand in whatever happened to them. They were just voted as a prized Wisconsin breed a few months ago. In truth, I did have something to do with their exceptional growth. 20 months ago, when the new batch of breeding cows became pregnant, I cast an optimal growth spell for monster reproduction on them. Sage had informed me that the newborn calves carried a barely perceptible monsterization trait, which made their meat more delicious than that of any other cow in the world. Now that my grandpa had slaughtered a few of them, I planned to cast another, optimal growth, spell for the remaining pregnant ones to see if they would evolve further. The spell wouldn't grant them intelligence or turn them into carnivorous monsters. Its purpose was solely to enhance their species traits, such as producing creamier milk and more tender meat. I butchered around 5 of them, 20 are added to the dairy farm, and 30 more are selected for breeding. Their meat is the best batch of meat I'd ever come across. I grinned at my grandpa and asked, Really? How much did it sell for? Unexpectedly, Grandpa shook his head and replied, I didn't sell any of them. You bought all of them from me, so you're the owner. Besides this kind of meat, it'd be a waste to sell it to those who don't recognize its value. I nodded in agreement. Yeah, it has become a high-class luxury item. It'd be a shame to just sell it to local vendors. Maybe Gordon Ramsay would want to feature this in his restaurant. I also had a few poultry farms located in Florida. I didn't want to operate anything in Los Angeles, given the abundance of mentally ill vegan activists there and the constant harassment they inflicted on local poultry farms. Maybe I should open my own restaurant? I mused. Suddenly my grandpa asked, Isn't it amusing? Just a year ago, one of the ranch hands here quit his job, and a year later he led a revolution in Cuba and became the president of the country. I turned slowly to gauge my grandpa's expression. It wasn't one of amusement. He wanted me to share the whole truth. I had recommended Sato to the ranch to ensure my grandparents' safety while I fought off the assassination attempts during my struggle to release the diabetes treatment program. Sato had foiled multiple attempts to kidnap my grandparents from those seeking to blackmail me, fostering a debt of gratitude between them. He and my grandpa had become good friends, so imagine my grandpa's surprise when he saw Sato on the news under a different name with his newfound accomplishments. "He's full of surprises," I replied casually. 2 years ago, the Freedom Fighters organization led by my mom failed, and they had to flee the country. I added this curtly. My grandpa's eyes lit up, and he stopped me. "Okay, I get it now. No wonder he's so good at fighting." He pieced together his own conclusion with limited information. It was a manipulative technique, and I felt guilty about lying to him. However, it was the best decision for now. "How is he doing right now?" my grandpa asked. "He's fine," I reassured him. "He has a lot on his plate. Various intelligence agencies are funding the opposition in order to take him down. They've supplied tanks, weapons, and even black funds to destabilize the country." My grandpa's face turned solemn as he took in this information. "So, how is he faring against them?" I smirked and responded. "He's accepted it all. They're giving away money and weapons for free, so he'd be an idiot to turn them down. But what about the opposition? They were loyal to him in the first place. The agencies made a stupid mistake for their country, but it ended up being beneficial for Sato." We rode back home after we finished talking. A few of my workers came and picked up the meat, the milk, and some cheese to transport it back to my house in LA. When I began to return back, Grandma prepared a delicious brisket from the V1 monsterized cows for me to take home in a Tupperware. "I wish I could stay longer, but I still have several more places to stop by," I said apologetically as I hugged Grandma. "Ah, that's too bad," Grandpa said, comforting me by rubbing my back before letting go. "Come back often, okay?" Now that all of my grandkids are in LA, it gets pretty lonely out here. I can let Amy and Maggie stay for another 2 days. It's not like they have any prior schedules, I mentioned to Grandma. Amy and Maggie shot me looks of betrayal. Grandma turned toward them with excitement, causing them to quickly hide their expressions. "Really? That would be wonderful." Amy laughed dryly, accepting her fate. "Okay, Grandma. Because I love you so much, I will stay." Maggie exhaled in defeat before adding, "I can use the time to practice my horse riding. I need to relearn that for my next movie." Grandpa smiled and patted Amy's shoulder excitedly. "Do you still remember how to lasso a cow? I'm going to need some help with the pasture." Maggie looked taken aback. "I think so? Great! We're going out at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, so don't stay up too late." Maggie was astonished by her grandpa's words. I smiled in satisfaction, knowing that Grandpa would help instill some discipline back into Maggie's everyday life. "Grandpa, Maggie's free for the entire week, so you can take as long as you," Amy started to say, but Maggie stomped on her foot, causing her to wince in pain. My grandma hugged Vanessa and said, "Edward can be a bit brash, hot-headed and kinda a jerk, but he's a nice kid. I support the both of you in your relationship." "Thank you, Jules." Vanessa was a bit bashful to hear the encouraging words from my grandma. I furrowed my eyebrows and said, "Did my own grandmother just call me a jerk?" Everyone laughed at my question, yet no one answered it. "I'm going to sulk now." "Ah, Eddie." My grandma hugged me again to comfort me. "I didn't mean you're a jerk. But you have to admit sometimes you're being intentionally difficult." I was greatly taken aback by the accusations. Amy agreed with Grandma, based on the fact that I had just sold them out to stay there while I went back home alone. I didn't argue with my grandmother and got on the helicopter with Vanessa. My grandmother looked worried and said to Grandpa, "Did I go too far in teasing him?" He looked quite hurt. "Really? I don't think he cared at all." Grandpa shrugged. Suddenly he remembered something and added, Before he left, he mentioned he's going to move his cows to Arizona or New Mexico since Wisconsin is too far away. He is hurt. I should talk to him before he leaves. But Jules was too late. The helicopter was already in the air. I returned to California after another 3-hour flight and went to a brewery in Sacramento. I had bought a couple of farmlands in the area, which were managed by my androids and held many secrets. Using leaf, plant modification skill, released the witch, I evolved the wheat to have more ears, which in turn produced more grains. Then, it was brought to the beer processing factory, where it was fermented with an evolved yeast, castle of black iron. The product quickly took the #1 spot as the most delicious beer in the world, but we weren't ready to launch it on the market just yet. We're expanding the farms and the beer factory tenfold. Only then can we start to sell it to the public. I told the staff, which consisted of androids and ordinary researchers. As Vanessa followed me from behind, she inquired about my work. The researchers filled her in on our soil health research, aiming to address the multifaceted challenges facing modern agriculture. First and foremost, we are investigating soil degradation, a pressing issue, began the researcher, my #7 android based on leaf from Release the Witch. Many conventional farming practices, such as monocropping and excessive chemical use, have led to the depletion of essential nutrients and increased erosion. Our research focuses on regenerative practices that could restore soil health and enhance fertility over time. She showed Vanessa the soil ratings we had established in various farmlands across the country. Vanessa was stunned by the topic. She had never truly considered farming to be such a serious issue until Leaf explained it all. We also explored the importance of biodiversity in our farmlands. By introducing a variety of cover crops and rotating our main crops, we aim to create a more resilient ecosystem that can better withstand pests and diseases while improving overall soil structure. This diversity benefits the crops and nurtures beneficial microorganisms and fauna in the soil. Leaf then showcased the genetically modified earthworms, though she omitted the fact that I had created them. The worms would help fertilize the land more efficiently. She also presented our research on new fertilizers and genetically modified crops, leaving Vanessa with starry eyes. Finally, we are addressing the issue of carbon sequestration. Through our regenerative practices, we aim to pull carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in the soil, actively contributing to climate change mitigation. Our goal is not just to grow high-yield crops but to cultivate a healthier environment for generations to come. Leaf concluded her lecture after nearly 3 hours. I interjected. We're still at the beginning of that research, so it will take a lot more time before it's put into practice. Cracking open a can of cold, brandless beer, I offered one to Vanessa. Want some? We drank beer together while we rested at the guest house. Vanessa thoroughly enjoyed the new brew, and her face was slightly flushed after just 4 cans. Edward, why are you doing all of this? She asked suddenly. Confused, I replied. You need to specify what you're talking about. The farm. Leaf told me that the government doesn't really care about farmers too much. Many of them are in debt, and crop yields are dropping annually. Billionaires are grabbing the depreciated farmland by buying it cheaply. Vanessa gazed at me intently as she continued. But why are you trying to save them? I shrugged and said, I'm the grandson of a ranch owner. I know how farmers live and how important they are to the country. That's why I'm doing this. Ness, make sure not to tell anyone what you saw here today. A lot of what we're doing isn't exactly legal yet. I'm not going to tell anyone. Vanessa grinned mischievously. Blackmail material will only work if I use it as my leverage, not others. I rolled my eyes and asked, And what are you going to use the blackmail material for? Mainly to get your body. Vanessa replied seductively. Pervert. I shot back curtly. Just drink your beer. We need to fly back soon. Can we rest a bit with the air travel? I don't really like traveling by plane, Vanessa said sulkily. Maybe I can drive us back home. It'll take a while, but I guess the night drive can be pretty enjoyable. You just drank some beer, and you plan on driving? Vanessa was flabbergasted. I shrugged and said, "It's only 6 cans. If I blow into the breathalyzer right now, it won't even detect it. I have tremendous alcohol resistance, and my body doesn't register these beers as alcohol." Vanessa snorted and replied, "Sure you do. But I still don't want you to drive us back. So, the only option we have is air travel again." I smirked. "Fuck." Vanessa cursed. A day passed, and I invited several people to my house for dinner. A gathering for an important meeting. Congratulations on surpassing $1.5 billion in the worldwide box office. I cheered for the cast and crew of the Avengers movie by raising my wine glass. The film had managed to hit the $1.5 billion mark 2 weeks earlier in this universe. RDJ, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Kevin Feige, the Russo brothers, Tom Hiddleston, Jeremy Renner, Kobe Smulders, Mark Ruffalo, Clark Gregg, Alexandra Daddario, and Samuel L. Jackson accepted my dinner invitation and came to celebrate. There seemed to be an extra in the cast. Alexandra Daddario was cast as Amora the Enchantress, an Asgardian witch who helped Loki in his conquest on Earth. Infatuated with Thor, she caused some chaos during the battle. The storyline of the movie had some minor tweaks, primarily because I was adamant about changing it. The revisions focused on the Hulk and Captain America's characters. For the Hulk, the scene where he says, "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry," was revised. While it was a great scene for the movie, it didn't accurately capture the relationship between Hulk and Banner, two beings constantly competing to become the dominant personality. After being dropped from the helicarrier, the Hulk roamed in his monstrous form until he neared New York City. He stopped at a diner, where he conversed with Banner in his mind. The scene was shot beside a window to allow the audience to see Banner's reflection in the mirror and the Hulk's mental state. When the wormhole opened, Banner told the Hulk that it was a chance for the world to see who he truly was. The Hulk went to fight the Leviathan after he saved a child from being crushed by falling debris. Captain America witnessed the Hulk's actions and had a conversation with him. This dialogue was inspired by the animated series Avengers Assemble. Hulk: "I can handle it." Captain America: "Sure you can, big guy. Now remember, watch out for the civilians." His casual advice irked the Hulk, making the Green Giant point a finger at Captain America. "Hulk, is that why you came over here? To make sure the monster didn't smash the humans too?" Captain America didn't cower in the face of the raging monster. He turned stern, showcasing his leadership and demonstrating why he was chosen as the leader of the Avengers. Captain America: "Stop that talk. I want you to protect the civilians from the aliens. They are the monsters here, not you. In my day, we had a name for someone like you." The Hulk was still fuming. Hulk: "Yeah? What's that?" Captain America: "A hero." The Hulk was taken aback, and his anger diminished. It was the first time someone had an honest conversation with him and didn't fear him. Captain America, heroically: "I've been watching you, Hulk. No matter how scared people are of you, no matter how much you're hounded, you always do the right thing. And that makes you a hero in my book. Now, how about we smash some more aliens?" Hulk: "I'll do that even without you telling me." The Hulk smiled and leaped into the air to fight off a Leviathan. The scene where Tony and Captain America argued in front of everyone about S.H.I.E.L.D.'s use of the Tesseract also received minor tweaks. Steve was a leader, and he understood the gravity of the situation. It wasn't the time for him to engage in a pissing contest with Tony. Although the argument played out, Steve was the first to realize that everyone was under the influence of a spell. The serum brought out the best in Steve Rogers. His heart was what made him special. He also managed to fight off Amora's enticement, highlighting his strength even more. This made up for his fighting performance against Loki at the beginning of the movie, showcasing to the audience what Captain America brought to the team. These tweaks highlighted everyone's strengths and the complex nature of the heroes. I received a writing credit for the movie as well. RDJ kept wanting to add me to the Avengers roster and hoped I would join the MCU, but it was challenging for everyone to find a character that suited me well. At the dinner party, I brought out a variety of specialties. The tender steaks were softer than Japanese wagyu, and the wine, crafted from mutated grapes and enhanced with euphoria, made everyone feel blissful. There was also wheat-based pizza topped with cheeses and sauces made from new ingredients, creating a culinary festival for the guests. It felt like their palates had returned to childhood, where every taste was eclectic and wonderful. Be honest, did you drug the food? I'm not mad. I just want to know. RDJ asked after finishing an entire bottle of wine. Sorry to disappoint you, but I used no drugs in the recipes, I replied playfully. After the satisfying dinner, they lounged around, sampling my expensive alcohol collection and even touring the house. RDJ stumbled into the arcade room and discovered the VR gear. I had received a Ready Player One universe VR gear blueprint from the gacha and created a virtual world based on my real engine. It was on par with Oasis, the VR universe in which Ready Player One was based. The men kept taking turns to play, as there were only 2 sets of equipment. I need one of these. Where can I get one? Chris Hemsworth asked excitedly after he took off the haptic suit. I'm not selling it yet. I think I'll wait another 2 or 3 years before releasing it to the public. You made this? RDJ was shocked. I had a feeling since I first met you. You're this world's version of Tony Stark, aren't you? Scarlett joined the conversation. Just look at his track record. He's definitely the Tony Stark of this world. Stop it, I said curtly. I'm me, not anyone else. Okay, I have something to hound Feige about. He didn't leave secretly, did he? While the movie was in production, I had suggested to Feige that we add Ant-Man and the Wasp to the roster, as they were key members of the Avengers. However, Feige chose not to introduce them directly in the movie, believing they needed their own film first before entering the Avengers lineup. Having established strong trust between us, I wanted to use this occasion to convince him to create a Black Widow movie. When Captain Marvel was released and the marketing department labeled her as the first female superhero, I was infuriated. Black Widow deserved her own movie, one that didn't suck. Perhaps it was due to her sacrifice in Endgame, but I had a lot of respect for the character. Even if making a movie about her at this stage seemed risky, I believed that with a solid plot, the film could be successful, at least grossing $400 million on a $100 million budget. Feige was still reluctant to take the risk. Maybe I'll do it if I can find a great enough script. Before he could finish, I slapped a thick stack of scripts in front of him. I grinned as Feige looked astonished. I have one here. A script. It may not be the best, but I think I can show you what I have in mind for the character and the cinematic universe going forward. In the last 2 years, I stumbled onto 7 different kinds of Marvel's cinematic universe. One of them had the mutants from the very beginning. Another featured Spider-Man as the main anchor of the story. Yet another revolved around the Fantastic Four. I saw many story reiterations from multiple universes, one of which had 30 years of content for comic book adaptations. One of the universes only had 18 adaptations of the stories. 2 of them closely resembled the universe similar to my previous life but with some minor timeline changes. I found a Black Widow movie being conceptualized right after the events of the first Avengers movie. Black Widow had to recover stolen alien tech from Taskmaster, and she also stumbled into the Hydra organization in her venture. Under the orders of Nick Fury, Natasha killed her partner and became a double agent, infiltrating the Hydra branch led by Madame Viper. The storyline continued through the events of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and the second Avengers movie. However, the second Avengers movie in that universe wasn't about Ultron, it was about Baron Zemo and Hydra's uprising. Feige was adamant about Ultron being the main villain for the second Avengers movie, so I couldn't change that. But I could tweak the script for the Black Widow movie and push it out earlier in this universe. As Feige was reading the script, RDJ grew curious and asked, I read a script that you wrote, now you see me. I had to learn about its existence from a friend of mine. Why didn't you send the script to me? I was taken aback and said playfully, Are you interested in the movie? I wanted to keep the budget low, so there's no way I'm going to spend the majority of the budget on your salary. I made over $50 million from the back-end deals for the Avengers movie. It made me feel really generous, so let's talk about the movie, and maybe I will take a pay cut for the role, RDJ said while grinning. Chapter 358, Woman Troubles. Edward POV. Thursday night, Vanessa and I left my house to see a theater show. The show was awful, just as I expected from Penny. On a side note, I did manage to spot a familiar face on stage. After the performance, Penny thanked Vanessa and me for attending. So, Edward, how do you rate the show? Penny asked eagerly, feeling proud of her work. The story, 3 out of 10. I said mercilessly, which deflated Penny's excitement. But your performance is a solid 6. Just a little bit more, and I might cast you as a lead in Netflix's new series, I added with a smirk. Penny almost squealed in excitement but quickly collected herself and covered her feelings. The industry was full of jealous, backstabbing individuals, so she had to be careful about her career prospects, especially since the deal was a private promise between the two of us. Vanessa raised an eyebrow while Penny and I talked. Her eyes were focused on Penny's deep cleavage. I asked her about the new actress on stage, Natalie Dyer. The future star of Stranger Things had just broken out in the acting industry at 17 years old. Most of the members of the theater troupe introduced themselves to Vanessa and me, hoping to catch my attention, which would lead them to an acting role. We slipped away early after I gave my agency number to Natalie. Again, thank you so much for coming to my show, Penny said as she gave me a tight, full frontal hug. In the car, Vanessa asked, pretending not to care. Her furrowed eyebrows betrayed her. What's the deal you have with Penny? If she passes my benchmark, I'll hire her for the series called Flight Attendant. It will take some more time before she can take a lead role in anything, though. I only gave her a 6 to encourage her. After replying casually, I turned to Hudgens slightly with a smirk while driving. What's with your face? Are you jealous? Do you want to be the only one to gain my attention? Vanessa pouted and said, Isn't that the normal thing to do? I'm your girlfriend, but you're giving roles to others while I have nothing to do. She was exaggerating. Vanessa was currently showered with acting offers, but she rejected them all. I shrugged. Since you're my girlfriend, I have to be even more fair to you. Besides, you're the one who said you wanted to rest after finishing your big project. Vanessa nodded, still sulking, but she had to accept it. I did say that. I smiled and teased her, raising her chin slightly to cheer her up. Don't worry. You're a bit of a special case, so it takes more effort to pick a suitable role for you. Vanessa smiled, thinking about the success of the series Diner. It was tailor-made for her, completely breaking her free from her Disney days and typecasting. Suddenly, Vanessa leaned toward me, putting her hand on my thigh. I'm thinking that I should act in a rom-com next. You know, something fun. Maybe we can do it together. Rom-com, huh? Maybe I can do it, but I still have Now You See Me and the Black Widow movie to work on. Unless you can wait until next year, I said with a difficult expression. Vanessa suddenly turned sulky again. After a brief silence, she said, Is the reason you are so adamant about bringing the Black Widow movie to production Scarlett Johansson? She recently had a divorce, so are you trying to hook up with her? I furrowed my eyebrows in disbelief and turned toward her. Why on earth would I try to hook up with Scarlett? Her breasts? Vanessa replied matter-of-factly. You can deny it all you want, I know you like it big. Even Penny has large ones. So that's why you want to give the role to her. I opened my mouth, but acceptance came before the argument. Vanessa became irritable when I nodded slightly, agreeing with her words. I had seen the movie Serial Apist, the detour horror movie Penny starred in featuring a topless scene. Even her minor roles in Netflix productions had her wearing bikinis and playing sexy characters. Then, Penny began to take many side character roles. Her exposure grew, and she started receiving more acting offers. Although her work mainly focused on TV roles, it was enough for her to afford moving out of her small apartment. At the time, she was dating Leonard, so I thought it was fine for her to leave, but they broke up 7 months ago, and Leonard was currently dating Rajesh's sister. Since then, Penny had stopped hanging out with Sheldon and his friends. See, I was right. Vanessa suddenly snapped me out of my thoughts, thinking my silence was acknowledgement. As I know for sure I won't win this argument since there's irrefutable evidence of that, the only reason I want to bring the Black Widow movie forward is the scale of the cinematic universe, I said playfully. I continued ranting, unaware that Vanessa wasn't really listening. They are going to make movies with larger stakes and bigger battles, so there's little gap in the timeline where the Black Widow movie can fit into the cinematic universe without seeming out of place. Vanessa silently mimicked my words with a mocking expression. All that grand cinematic universe planning just to justify your love for big boobs. Is the reason you're lashing out because you can't keep it in anymore? Will you be the one to break down first and throw yourself at me? I teased. Vanessa was taken aback and immediately shot back. You're the one who's going to break first, Newgate. I shrugged again, which only frustrated her more. Although we had been dating for about 2 weeks, we still hadn't slept together yet. It wasn't because I wasn't attracted to her, but because Vanessa had made a bet with me at the beginning of our relationship. The first person to make a move would have to do whatever the other asked, and the other person couldn't weasel out of the penalty. I didn't know what she wanted from me, so I was keeping my defenses up. It had started out as a playful thing, but as the bet dragged on, both of us were feeling a bit frustrated. Do you want to go to Kiernan's party? Vanessa asked as she checked her phone, clearly tired from the earlier topic. I wouldn't go to any party if I had the chance. Vanessa sighed. Did you develop agoraphobia from dealing with too many people? Some celebrities have that. I shrugged. Maybe a little. I know for sure that the girls there will throw themselves at me all night long, and I don't want to deal with it. Kiernan included, since she still thinks I'm single. Vanessa frowned and typed angrily as she replied to Kiernan Shipka. Although her words in the text were polite, I could sense her irritation. As we arrived at my house, Vanessa immediately rummaged through my bar and took out my beers and the rest of my alcohol. Let's see if you can still keep your guard up when you're drunk. You sound like a sexual deviant, Ness, I said curtly before I ignored her and sank onto the couch. Vanessa was taken aback and pouted again. Just kidding. Bring it over here, I called playfully. She smiled and skipped happily as she walked toward me before throwing herself into my arms. After downing 3 bottles of spirits, Vanessa and I started making out in the living room. She hinted heavily at wanting to take the night further. Although I knew I would lose the bet, I relented and finally made my move. We had a wonderful time that night, which led to us staying in, just enjoying each other's company for 2 days. Sunday morning, Vanessa and I were making out in my bed, our naked bodies covered by a thin white blanket. Suddenly Yuri Alpha entered the room, surprising Vanessa. She yelped and quickly pulled the blanket to cover her body, but in doing so, she inadvertently exposed mine. I grabbed a pillow and covered my crotch area before speaking to Yuri. Why did you break protocol, Yuri? I asked her calmly. Yuri bowed apologetically. I'm sorry for being rude, sir. Your father and future stepmother, along with the rest of your family, are coming to the house in 30 minutes for Sunday dinner. They are bringing their friends with them. I assume you need the reminder since you've been. Friends? Who? I interjected before she could finish. Vanessa covered her face with her hand, incredibly embarrassed. The Dunphys and the Pritchetts, along with their respective families. Yuri replied, bowing slightly before leaving. Vanessa stammered once she was gone. Why, your entire family is going to be here? I nodded slightly. Yeah, I think so. Want to do it one more time before they get here? She quickly crawled off the bed, anxiously saying, No! I will not walk funny in front of your entire family. Or faint from pleasure again. I laughed at her exasperation. But we should still take a shower together. Vanessa was stunned and turned, biting her lips slightly. I know! I'm not going to get seduced again, Newgate. You're insatiable. I'm sore enough already. But despite her claims, she didn't push me away when I joined her. We got ready at our own pace, even with the guests having already arrived before we even got out of the shower. It wasn't until everyone was seated at the dining table and the food was already laid out that Vanessa and I finally joined them. Everyone greeted me excitedly, and Vanessa was quite embarrassed when she felt the eyes on her. Amy and Maggie pulled her away from me and forced her to sit next to them while I walked to my dad. I saw the ring on Frankie's finger and smiled in satisfaction. So, you finally listened to me and took her on a midnight cruise to pop the question, huh? I said playfully, a grin spreading across my face. Both my dad and Frankie shifted awkwardly, a hint of embarrassment creeping into their expressions. The journey to this moment of commitment hadn't been easy for Frankie. She had a sister with a mental disability, born when their mother was around Frankie's current age. This weighed heavily on her mind as she faced the possibility of pregnancy at 40. The thought of bringing a child into the world with the same challenges her sister faced was understandably daunting. But before she could spiral deeper into worry, I introduced her to some procedures that could assess the fetus's health and her genetic risks, should there be any. Knowing the risks brought Frankie a sense of calm, allowing her to embrace the idea of pregnancy. The fetus was fully normal right now. Ultimately, she agreed to my dad's proposal after figuring out where she stood in the whole child-rearing thing. To be honest, even though Frankie is 50, I truly believe she can have a healthy child. I have various methods at my disposal that could help her reclaim her vitality. Her physical health right now was similar to a healthy woman in her 20s after I gave her several supplements. Her back pain was gone, her eyes became clearer, even her hair became glossier. Edward, it's been a while. Gloria hugged me excitedly after she stood up from her seat. I sensed something familiar inside Gloria, the same feeling I get when I realize Frankie was pregnant. I guess it was time for Joe to come out soon. However, it seems that Gloria didn't realize it yet. Everyone in the family came, except for Haley, who's in college. Luke, what happened to you? I asked, surprised by Luke's current appearance. He wore a large hoodie, his hair a little scruffy, and he had opted for a bad boy persona instead of his usual innocent character. Things happened, Luke replied, attempting to act mature. Alex rolled her eyes and exposed him. What do you mean, what happened? You happened. It was you who did this. I did this? I was thoroughly confused. Alex continued. Your delinquent movie. He's emulating your character. No, I am not. Luke immediately refuted Alex, revealing his innocent demeanor beneath his tough facade. That's pretty cute, I teased. Abashed, Luke grunted and whined. I am not copying you. This is my life right now. By the way, that's a pretty nice hoodie, I said as I touched his dinosaur print hoodie. Aren't you feeling hot? The sun is sweltering outside. Luke wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, It's fine. I can take it. Although he wanted to act tough, he was only 13 years old. The hoodie was a gift from his sister, Haley, designed by her for his birthday, just like many others sold on her fashion website. Many laughed at Luke and joined in the conversation. You sacrificed comfort for fashion. I guess you are getting more mature now, Luke. Manny also has a major change after 2 years. He was no longer chubby, and he cut his hair short. The Gloria and Javier genes showed their effect on him, turning him into a pretty boy. Dad announced his engagement to Frankie after the Sunday dinner. Everyone was excited about the prospect of the wedding. Claire was picked as the maid of honor, and Phil became my dad's best man. The wedding was set a month from now, so it would be a June wedding. Edward! Pick me up! Lily exclaimed, raising both her hands as she stood in front of me. I scooped her up and let her sit on my forearm. She giggled and nestled her head against my chest, wrapping her arms around me in a gentle hug. The sight turned Vanessa on for some reason. Her face flushed, and she breathed heavily as she stared at me until Maggie snapped her finger in front of Vanessa, prying her focus elsewhere. "Lily, will you let me hold your baby brother or sister like this when they arrive?" I asked teasingly. "No, baby!" Lily grumbled, her annoyance evident. Mitchell and Kem watched us with a mix of exasperation and affection. Their new child was due to arrive any day now, but they were having some difficulty getting Lily on board with the whole idea of having a sibling. The two of them had connected with a pregnant woman in Calexico and were in the process of adopting her child. I checked, and it doesn't seem like it was the same woman from the TV series. This one has no close family, no sister, and definitely no grandmother who would insist on raising the family herself instead of allowing Cam and Mitch to adopt. Maybe in this timeline, Lily would actually have a sibling after all. Afterward, everyone gathered at the house. Manny and Luke were torn between swimming in the pool or playing in the arcade, so they decided to settle it with a game of rock, paper, scissors and ended up opting for the VR game. As I put on my haptic gloves, I turned to Luke and Manny. "Pick the normal mode option, not the reality mode." Luke and Manny donned their waist harnesses and stepped onto the omnidirectional platform, preparing for their first VR dive. I had 4 of these platforms set up in my basement, and had organized 200 of them at the gaming company for staff testing and feedback on the VR experience. "What's going to happen if I pick reality mode?" Luke asked, his tone cocky. "When you get hit, you'll feel it all over your body," I replied casually as they strapped on their haptic body vests. As I readied myself, Vanessa, Amy, Maggie, and Alex watched from a distance. Vanessa shyly waved at me before I adjusted my visor. "So, how is it?" Maggie whispered to Vanessa, the others leaning in with curiosity. Vanessa placed her hand on her back and replied, "He's like a beast in bed. I'm feeling pretty sore right now." Claire noticed the girls gathering and felt an urge to join their conversation, but she quickly turned away upon realizing the topic at hand. As the visor settled into place, the scene transformed into a post-apocalyptic world. A massive dragon soared low overhead, its wings creating gusts powerful enough to threaten the player's balance. Manny instinctively yelled, while Luke fumbled to understand how to handle his weapons. Their nervousness was unwarranted since they needed to set up their characters before jumping into the game. Luke chose an orc warrior as his avatar, while Manny picked a suave sniper complete with an eye patch. I opted for a swordsman, and together, we launched into battle. The game thrust us directly into a campaign reminiscent of a classic Dungeons & Dragons adventure. Players could level up their characters, discover exclusive items, loot opponents, and even broadcast their gameplay to their entertained livestream, although that last feature was still unavailable for now. We spent the entire day at my house, leaving only after sharing a meal together. "I really miss you guys," I said, giving Gloria a gentle hug. Manny replied, "You should come by our house more often. Or we can come here to continue the campaign. Alex is stopping by for the lab, right?" "We can hitch a ride with her," Luke suggested. Alex rolled her eyes and replied, "If I could ever get started on the study." Edward keeps pushing the date back. Phil, unexpectedly interjecting, said, "He just wants to rest a bit more, Alex. Please be understanding." Both Alex and I were taken aback by Phil's comment. Alex grumbled, "I didn't mean to be difficult. I just want a starting date. Come by next Tuesday. We'll get started with the work then," I offered. Alex perked up and grinned. "Okay. I'll come here right after school." "Alex, what about your lacrosse practice?" Claire asked, her concern evident, as she realized Alex might be overlooking her other commitments. "If I participate in the research, I won't need to engage in extra co-curricular activities to boost my college admissions. So I'm going to quit lacrosse from now on," Alex declared with determination. "Alex?" Claire exclaimed, clearly taken aback by Alex's resolute decision. "If you have lacrosse, just come after your game," I need to work on a few productions too, and if I can't focus on that, I'll have to push the work to my pharma company instead," I suggested, trying to provide a compromise. "No! Then I won't be able to participate," Alex protested begrudgingly. I shrugged and replied, "You can still apply as an intern there. There are special programs available for the lab that you could benefit from. I'll arrange a meeting with Dr. Rostenkowski. Maybe you can impress her enough to take you under her wing." Eventually, Alex relented after I talked her through the options. Although I was eager to study the new cure right away, I had my hands full with other projects. First and foremost, I needed to finalize the casting for the movie Now You See Me and start production before June. I still had to follow up with Feige about the Black Widow movie and draft another script for Vanessa's next project. Since she wanted a rom-com story, I would do my best to deliver that. I wanted to focus on one aspect of my life at a time. My life had felt scattered for months. Work haunted me even in my sleep. Even during moments with my girlfriend, like kissing her, my mind often wandered to upcoming projects. I longed to be present instead of obsessively planning my next big idea. Maybe I'll play Atlas in the Now You See Me movie. I think I'd enjoy that character. I mumbled to myself as I wrapped my arm around Vanessa's waist, both of us walking into the house together after everyone had left. "Oh, by the way, what are you planning to ask me to do if you win the bet?" Vanessa asked as we reached the living room. I smirked and replied, "It's not much. Maybe something fun while you're cosplaying. What about you? Now that you've won, what do you want me to do? Cosplay? Who would I cosplay as?" Vanessa asked, momentarily diverting the question. "Maybe Khaleesi or Jinx. But it doesn't matter now since I've lost anyway," I said playfully. Vanessa smirked, her eyes sparkling. "Don't feel down. Maybe you haven't entirely lost hope just yet." "Really? That's nice to hear. Also, what's my penalty for losing?" I approached her, wrapping my arms around her waist and drawing her close, maintaining eye contact. Vanessa giggled, wrapping her arms around my neck as she stood on her tiptoes to whisper in my ear, "I want you to." My eyes widened at her words, disbelief washing over me. "Really? That?" Chapter 359, Society Reintroduction. Edward POV. Inside my recording studio at home, which was built in one of the detached houses, a dance studio on the bottom floor and the recording studio on top, Vanessa practiced her vocals in the soundproof room while I worked on the song with the synthesizer. She wore a white crop top, a short plaid skirt, and leggings, tying her hair into a double bun. "Brrrihhshalayla I think I'm ready." She gave me a thumbs up as she put on her headphones. I pressed the red intercom button to talk to her. "Good, we'll start from the beginning." The recording session went smoothly, and it took only 3 hours to finish the entire song. I'm starving," Vanessa whined as she exited the soundproof room. "How about I cook some lunch?" "Now that we've finished your request, we can spend the entire evening together." Vanessa widened her eyes and gasped. "Don't try to subtly change the terms of your penalty. I'm not the one who decided to create a new song this morning when I woke up." "Damn it. You saw through that, huh?" I said with a playful grumble. Vanessa smirked and hugged my arm, pressing her body close. "Are you really that scared? Should I be lenient and let you off easy? If someone overheard you, they might think the penalty is pegging. Not that I have any problem with that, just give me some time to prepare." Vanessa suddenly bit my shoulder as I teased her. "Oh. All right, you're really hungry. We should go eat first." We had lunch next to the garden, underneath the shade, while I watched Vader play with a squirrel. With starry eyes, Vanessa snapped multiple pictures of Vader, overwhelmed by his cuteness, all while munching on her fried chicken drumstick. "I'll set up the music video production for tomorrow. We should be able to finish shooting it in a day if nothing goes wrong," I told Vanessa after finishing my call with Randall. "Should I cut my hair?" she asked casually as she stood up from squatting on the grass. "Why would you cut your hair?" I asked, confused. So, you like girls with long hair? She grinned and walked back to her seat, acting coy as she opened a can of beer. I glanced at the can and saw it was my brand of beer. Forge Fire. Oh, so you're trying to gotcha me? I opened another can of beer. She twirled her hair. I just want to get to know you, what you like and dislike. I like you? I interjected before she could finish. Vanessa inhaled deeply, taken aback by my sudden confession, and her face flushed slightly. She giggled happily and asked, Do you like me with short hair or long hair? I sighed inwardly, knowing her question wouldn't be easy to answer. If I said I preferred long hair, she might cut it short just to see if I'd still like her that way. Although I wasn't sure if she would do that, I had similar experiences before and didn't want to risk it. I never really thought about it before. I'd have to check and see first, I said casually. Vanessa quickly untied her hair, letting it flow freely. This is what it looks like with long hair, and... She folded her hair in half and hid the top with her hand, trying to show me what she would look like with a bob cut. This is what I'd look like if it were shorter. I still don't see it. Why don't you come closer? I placed my finger under my chin, pretending to scrutinize her appearance. Vanessa excitedly walked over and sat next to me. This is... Before she could finish, I kissed her on the lips. Vanessa was stunned and immediately looked around anxiously. What are you doing? Are you crazy? What if there are paparazzi stalking us? We could even have sex out here and no one would know. My security is more advanced than the U.S. military base, you know? I said, grabbing her hand and kissing it. Vanessa bit her lower lip, tempted, but quickly shook her head as she fought off those thoughts. She slapped my hand away and said, I'm being serious. I think it's time for me to change my image. That might not be a bad idea. I finally took her seriously. You've had long, wavy brunette hair forever. Instead of cutting it, why not change the color? Vanessa's eyes lit up as she embraced the suggestion. I always wanted to do something like Enid, with two-tone highlights, but I don't think it would work well with my skin tone. I stifled a laugh at her immediate change in enthusiasm and said, You're incredibly pretty, so I'm sure you'll make it work. Do you want me to visualize it on my computer so you can see how it might look? Vanessa eagerly agreed to the suggestion. We spent some time chatting and having fun until it was almost 3 p.m. Suddenly she stood up and declared, We need to get ready now. Time's up, Newgate, you need to pay the price. If I give you $10 million, can I escape my penalty? I asked, flashing my best puppy dog eyes. I wrapped my arms around her waist and rested my cheek against her abdomen, trying to appear pathetic, but Vanessa was merciless. She smirked and said, If you do that, then I might be open-minded about the cosplay thing. Let's do it! I stood up abruptly and took the lead to head inside the house. Vanessa laughed and allowed herself to be dragged along as we went to get ready. We playfully goofed around a bit, which resulted in us needing to change our clothes. After getting ready for the second time, we hopped into my blue Maserati and drove straight to the event venue. The reception area turned chaotic as I exited the car and then escorted Vanessa out like a true gentleman. Even the organizers seemed surprised that we had shown up at the event, although my name was on the guest list. It will be fun to meet the president again, I whispered to Vanessa as we arrived at George Clooney's fundraising event for the Democratic Party, aimed at raising campaign funds for President Obama's re-election. Celebrities like RDJ, James Brolin, Tobey Maguire, Jack Black, and many others were in attendance, along with high-profile figures such as fashion CEOs, the mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa, and the Attorney General. For some reason, representatives from tech companies were notably absent, leaving me as the sole tech presence at the event. The table wasn't free, it cost $40,000 per seat, and the event was held in a tent set up inside George Clooney's basketball court. The event was mind-numbingly dull. I found myself sitting at a random table with Vanessa instead of people I knew, sharing space with the Attorney General and the Mayor, which astonished many other guests. "Howard, how are your wife and kids?" I greeted the Attorney General with a cheeky smile. "Has she managed to get rid of the headaches?" "Yes, after changing her diet, which just meant drinking less. She doesn't have frequent headaches anymore," the plump middle-aged man replied, clearly pleased. I guess that's still a bad thing for her. Now she has no excuses left," I teased, and Howard chuckled, his face turning a shade redder. As I cozied up to the mayor, I noticed Vanessa looking at me with a bewildered expression. "Didn't you say you didn't want to come? Why are you so chummy with them?" she whispered while everyone focused on George Clooney's speech. "One thing you have to know about me is that I'm a chameleon. Even if I really don't want to do something, I'll put on a good face to survive," I whispered back. Vanessa furrowed her brows, and I chuckled, finding it adorable. "Stop being suspicious," I said gently, playfully tugging her eyebrows down with my fingers, an act that caught the attention of photographers. After his tedious speech, the president made his way to our table. As soon as he reached us, he remarked, "Edward, it'd be better if you just yawned. I almost laughed when I saw you holding it back while I was speaking." Taken aback, I smirked and replied playfully, "You saw that, huh? Don't get me wrong, it's a great speech, but I've heard it before." Obama laughed heartily, while I noticed Vanessa felt a bit out of place among the country's most influential figures. I teased her slightly. "I guess you're regretting it now, huh? Cashing in your bet for this, and the worst part is that it's not even your wish." Vanessa widened her eyes in shock. "You knew that Pepper would pull something like this?" "Of course I did." I leaned in and whispered to her, "I won't consider this your prize, think of something else. I'll settle the bill with Pepper later." Vanessa blushed, feeling a ticklish sensation as I whispered in her ear. We enjoyed food prepared by Wolfgang Puck, though I still felt my cooking was superior. I handed out some gifts to the president, the mayor, the attorney general, and several other VIPs. A bottle of Euphoria, a rare brand of alcohol so exclusive that people were clamoring to get it. As the guests began to mingle after dinner, I bumped into RDJ. While many people wanted to speak with the president, I was on their list too. I kept steering away from the people I found exhausting and exploitative, only meeting with those with a good reputation. The fundraiser raised $15 million for the re-election campaign. To be honest, with the president's current popularity, he would have no problem winning the next election. "Edward!" Emma Stone exclaimed with delight when she saw me. She excitedly jogged in her high heels and gave me a bear hug. "Ness!" Emma embraced Vanessa as well upon noticing her. "Oh my God, what did you do? How did you end up at the VVIP table?" Emma asked, clearly surprised by my unexpected seating arrangement. She was blonde, having just wrapped up shooting for The Amazing Spider-Man. "I'm just that important, practically irreplaceable to the country. The president wants to talk to me about reducing the unemployment rate. Although he's managed to push it down to 2%, he's still not satisfied." Vanessa interjected, exposing me. "They talked about alcohol. Didn't even touch that topic. Don't believe him. You know what?" "I never did," Emma playfully replied, giving me a side-eye before the two of them giggled together. During the shooting of Draculine, Emma and I had grown quite close. I admired her acting talent and positivity. Andrew Garfield was right, she was like a shot of espresso in the morning. Of course, she could also be a bit unhinged. I saved her contact as Emma Stoned, because her antics often resembled someone under the influence, even when she was perfectly sober. Our publicity tour for the movie was legendary. We joked around with each other constantly and exhibited an undeniable chemistry that led to rampant rumors swirling about us dating. However, the truth was that we were just really great friends, nothing more, nothing less. "By the way, I heard you bought Universal Studios? When did that happen?" Emma asked with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. I grimaced at her. "That's old news, like a year old. Did you just hear about it? No wonder people keep throwing themselves at you." Emma said with a slight disdain. With everything you own, they'll be clamoring to be on top if they manage to land you. Just be very careful, okay? Don't fall for someone like that bitch Amber Heard. Emma and I had encountered Amber during the filming of Draculine. Emma was vocal about her feelings towards her, especially after Amber had dismissed her face-to-face, claiming Emma wasn't pretty enough to be my side piece. I kicked Amber out from the set, and she went to search for other targets after failing in her attempts to get together with me. Emma, I need to tell you a secret, I whispered conspiratorially, lowering my voice. Her eyes lit up with excitement, and she leaned in closer. Ooh. I love secrets. I'm dating someone, I confessed, keeping my tone low. Emma gasped, her surprise palpable as she urged me to spill the beans. Vanessa's expression shifted to one of confusion, not expecting the conversation to take that turn. She remained silent, glancing at Emma and I with anticipation. However, I never revealed the name of my mystery date, leaving Vanessa feeling a little disheartened. When Vanessa noticed my teasing gaze, her shyness returned. Yeah, I'm dating someone, but she wants to keep it a secret for some reason, I whispered, maintaining the playful streak. Maybe she's ashamed of you, Emma teased back, her expression mock sympathetic. Maybe she is, I replied, smirking. A slight cough from Vanessa broke the moment, and she attempted to change the subject, but she had missed her chance. Oh, heads up. You might need to give your girlfriend a warning about this one, Emma advised, her gaze drifting to someone approaching us. I don't think you can handle the fallout by yourself. I hesitated to disclose that it was Vanessa I was dating, but I was curious as to why Emma felt that way. Suddenly, it became painfully clear when an older man accompanied by a young, voluptuous model approached us. The old man was Fred Upton, a former United States House representative, and the model was his niece, Kate Upton. Edward! Great to see you here, Fred said, his voice booming with friendliness. I met him multiple times before. After he resigned, Fred acted as a consultant for various businesses. I met him through Eve, Pepper's mother. It turned out that Upton's great-grandfather was a co-founder of an appliance company, so the Saltzmans and the Uptons had a long history and were pretty close. Good to see you, Fred. And Kate, you look fantastic, I greeted politely, offering a warm smile. Vanessa subconsciously squeezed my arm tighter as her gaze landed on Kate's tight white dress, accentuating her gravity-defying bosom. The sight left her speechless. Kate brushed her hair behind her ear, feeling a bit shy as she met with me face to face. Edward, nice to meet you again, she said with a slight blush on her cheek. During the ride home, the atmosphere was tense. Vanessa turned her attention to the window, avoiding any attempt at a conversation. I didn't do anything wrong, I sighed, feeling the weight of the moment. Vanessa turned completely away from me, her silence palpable. She wants to meet for dinner, I explained, trying to clarify. I rejected her and told her to come to the company instead. I kept it professional. She's the niece of someone I know. I couldn't just dismiss her like that. I attempted to defend myself, but Vanessa remained sulky. The mental clash of seeing Kate's curves seemed to have left a mark, and Vanessa already had the sense that I'm a chess man. Have you thought about what to do yet? I asked, seeking to shift the topic. But Vanessa didn't respond. Maybe we can go to the amusement park? I suggested, hoping to lighten the mood. It caught her attention momentarily, but she fell back into her sulkiness. What about a club? A party? Or maybe get some food? I ramped up my suggestions, eager to cheer her up. Dance! Vanessa suddenly replied, her expression stoic. I feel like dancing. I nodded, relieved at her shift. Dance it is. Not clubbing, though. We should go to a place where we can just dance. She clarified, her lips curving into a small smile as she witnessed my excitement. I reached for the radio. Why don't we listen to some music before we get there? Just to get the heartbeats going. But the moment I turned on the radio, I instantly regretted it. Well, I am big and chunky. I like 'em big.
chunky. I like 'em big. I like 'em plumpy.
I quickly shut off the radio, glancing at Vanessa, who had once again sunk into her sulking demeanor. "Take me home, Edward," she demanded, her tone firm. "Fuck," I cursed under my breath, feeling a sense of defeat. The next day arrived pretty quickly. There were a lot of rumors circulating online, and a flirty picture of me and Vanessa was shared over 1,000,000 times. But since there wasn't any confirmation from any of the involved parties, the rumors couldn't be confirmed. "Maybe her mood will get better today," I said, wishfully thinking. General POV. New York, Saturday Night Live office. Bill Hader and Jason Sudeikis listened as another SNL cast member voiced their concerns. "The ratings keep dropping. We need to change the way we do things around here," one of the show's producers said before turning to Jason. "Jason, you're our only connection to Edward Newgate. Can you try to pull him in for a show? We need to bump those numbers up, otherwise we're going to lose half the staff." Jason had been working on this universe's version of Modern Family, and his popularity had exploded. Still, he made a point of staying connected with his SNL family, and had offered to help whenever they needed it. "I mean, I do have his cell number. But I don't know if he'll do it." "Oh. I know how we might get him on board. There's this guy he said he likes working with. What's his name again?" Jason snapped his fingers a few times, trying to jog his memory. "Right. Julio Torres. He spoke really highly of him." Bill Hader looked confused. "Julio, the new guy? How does Edward Newgate even know our newbie writer?" Jason shrugged. "I don't know. That's just what I remember, though I could be wrong. Why don't we meet with the guy first? See if he actually knows him." The reason Edward wanted to work with Julio Torres was because Julio had created the iconic SNL sketch Papyrus. He had also worked on Santa Baby and The Actress. Edward admired his absurdist comedic style, and would jump at the chance to collaborate on a skit. The SNL members were all confused when they met with Julio. They couldn't see how this guy had gained Edward's attention. Still, they decided to give it a try and offered Edward to become the guest host for the next Saturday Night Live. Chapter 360, Fight and Make Up. Edward POV. Vanessa was still in a mood when we arrived at the production set for the music video, set up on the golf course. She tried to be professional, but I didn't want to start the production like this. "Vanessa, meet me at your trailer. I need to talk to you about something," I said, stopping the production and giving the order. Vanessa's eyes widened, and she became docile immediately. Okay." Seeing me act firm made her feel restless. The rest of the staff raised their heads like meerkats, but no one dared to question the director's authority on set. "Is she in trouble?" Jamie, an Indian-American writer, asked her friend. The makeup artist scoffed and replied, "Hardly. They're really close. But I guess he'll talk to her about her attitude." "You mean bitchiness?" Jamie mocked playfully. "She's not like that. I guess she's on her time of the month." The makeup artist defended Vanessa. Jamie rolled her eyes and said, "I know. I'm just playing. I know she's a nice person. Not this morning she ain't." The makeup artist clarified, and Jamie agreed. "This was my personal production team, consisting of 15 humans and 15 androids. The humans were responsible for creativity, writing and props, while the androids handled the grunt work and stunts. Only the human staff were curious about the altercation between the main lead and the director. The androids didn't even bother to turn their heads in our direction." As we stood face to face inside the trailer, I said, "We don't have to do this now if you don't want to." Vanessa's eyes widened, and she grabbed my hand immediately. You don't have to postpone the shoot because of this." I sighed and gently patted her head. "Don't misunderstand me. I'm not angry. The reason I'm doing this is to have some fun with you. Forcing the shoot to happen is the opposite of what I intended today to be." Vanessa's eyes glistened with tears, understanding that she had been unreasonable, Yet it seemed a metaphysical force compelled her to continue acting out, pushing aside her affection and entertaining her insecurities instead. I chuckled dryly and urged, "Maybe you can tell me a bit about why last night triggered you so much? I'm a smart guy, so I just need some hints. We're in a relationship after all, so let me understand your thought process a little." Vanessa pursed her lips, her eyes shifting with uncertainty. Then she sighed and decided to be honest. She took out her phone and opened her Instagram, showing me a girl's profile. "Oh, is that Alyssa? The one Zach cheated on you with?" I saw the girl's figure, and immediately understood why last night had happened. I'm really sorry. I think I projected my last relationship onto you. It's unfair since you've been nothing but wonderful." Vanessa's voice broke, and tears began to flow. I wiped her tears with my finger and pulled her close. "Hey! Don't cry. I'm not mad at all. I know. That's what makes me so disgusted with myself." Vanessa cried even harder, opening up about her scars from her previous relationship, sniffling as she told her story. "She's not prettier, she's not nicer. I did everything he wanted, but I still lost to that. Pair of melons?" I interjected, which earned me a glare from Vanessa. "I'm kidding," I said playfully, running my finger along her chin. "Well, if we want to do this for a long time, I guess it's time for you to stop treating the relationship like it's going to fail. You had this expectation that I'm similar to that guy, and it's causing some trouble. I also became annoyed when you kept doing that sort of stuff. It's like you're purposely trying to sabotage our relationship. Do you hate me now?" Vanessa nearly cried again. "Do you want to break up with me?" I gave her a playful karate chop before she could finish. "Ow!" She winced in pain. "Stop that. We're going to be a couple for a while, so you better rein in your craziness," I said lightly. Vanessa finally smiled and wrapped her arms around me, giving me a sloppy kiss. She playfully pushed me onto the trailer bed, wanting to go further when we heard a knock on the door. Randall called from outside. "Edward. Vanessa. I heard there's some trouble. Are you guys all right?" "No trouble. We've already worked it out," Vanessa said with difficulty, not wanting to move her lips away from mine. I instinctively grabbed her waist, but snapped out of my horniness and stopped the kissing. "We should shoot the music video first before we lose sunlight. I promise I'll make it up to you later tonight. We're postponing the makeup sex? Are you sure? That's one of the best." Vanessa tried to seduce me, but I scooped her up in a Princess Carrie, walking toward the door before I placed her down. She laughed the entire time, showering me with kisses before we faced the others. As we walked out of the trailer, all eyes were on us. The makeup artist noticed the slight smudging of Vanessa's mascara and assumed I had been harsh with her. They immediately pulled Vanessa aside to confirm her well-being. "This offends me a little," I muttered as I watched the women rally around her. Vanessa reassured them that everything was fine and that we had discussed a personal issue. Her bad mood disappeared, which eased the staff's concerns. However, her smile vanished again when she saw the costume she would be wearing for the day. "A fat suit?" Vanessa was skeptical when I explained the concept for the music video. "There's a beard and old man makeup too. Prepare yourself. This shoot will be quite straining," I said teasingly. Although reluctant at first, Vanessa became quite playful once she was in character. She kept swirling her plastic belly and even danced in a silly way, trying to get me to kiss her while she was in her old man makeup, acting in a playful manner. The shooting breezed by quickly. Before we broke for lunch, 90% of the filming was already done. Vanessa's vast acting experience and my fast filming style made it possible for us to complete the music video in a single day. During lunch, Vanessa and I sat together outside of Arby's. "The server doesn't recognize me. This is so much fun," Vanessa said excitedly as she continued wearing her disguise while she ate. "Don't get mustard on your beard, you know what? Do get mustard on your beard. I want to add this to the music video." I said, pulling out my phone to film her. Embarrassed, Vanessa giggled and tried to stop me while acting adorable. Stop, let's not film it while I'm eating. I shuddered and replied. It's really disconcerting to see an old man acting cute. Cute? I'm acting cute? Vanessa placed her hand on her cheek, tilting her head slightly. Stop that. See, I got goosebumps. I showed her the skin of my arm, making her laugh out loud. There had been a palpable gap between us before. Maybe it was due to our years of friendship, or the employer-employee dynamic. After our sitcom-style fight, we had gotten a bit closer. Back at my place, I was editing the music video when I received a call from Pepper. He greeted me from Milan, showing the beautiful beach in the background. He was checking up on me, which I suspected had something to do with my altercation with Vanessa that morning. She's still a talent in the company. You don't have to make her cry, Pepper admonished me. I smirked slightly, leaning forward and feigning distress. Why am I to blame here? It's not like I yelled at her. You're the CEO of the company. You have to make some concessions. Pepper scolded while giving me advice. If you can't do it, then ask someone else to handle it for you. He added casually, sipping on his cocktail. I laughed inwardly, desperately trying to stop myself from telling Pepper about my relationship with Vanessa. Also, I found a secretary for you, he said suddenly. Confused, I raised an eyebrow and asked, Really? Who? You know I have high standards for my employees, especially since I need someone capable to help me with my schedule. Don't kid yourself. You have your AI for that. The secretary's function is just to be eye candy while you work. Pepper added sarcastically. Mr. Upton contacted me yesterday. I think he wants Kate to be your secretary for a while to learn how the industry works. Kate Upton? No. Absolutely not. I rejected her instantly. Tomorrow is the premiere for Night Witches. Are you going? Pepper asked, sipping his cocktail, ignoring my rejection. Of course I'm going. Don't try to change the subject. I grimaced, looking at him in disbelief. Pepper laughed and said, Why are you so against it? I thought you loved girls with big. Pepper. I called him out firmly, making him stop joking. All right. I'm sorry. I'll still need to hire her though, because I promised Mr. Upton. Pepper said apologetically. I have nothing against that. Just don't make her my secretary. Also, when did the rumors about me loving girls with big racks start? I haven't heard anything about this. I asked urgently. Pepper shrugged, as he wasn't clear on it either. I vowed inwardly to track down the source of the rumors. Although I finished editing the music video that night, I decided to wait until June before releasing it, aiming for it to become the song of the summer. There was also another reason. I wanted to finish the choreography version of the music video. It wouldn't be released at the same time, maybe around 2 weeks after the official music video drop. I contacted Lia Kim, the prestigious dance choreographer the company has on retainer, to create the dance for the song. It would be a waste not to use Vanessa's pretty face to market it. The next day arrived, and the Night Witches premiere was finally here. I went to the premiere with Vanessa as my date, and the reporters asked us multiple questions about the movie and some personal ones. You guys have been seen together a couple of times in the last week. Has your relationship changed? A reporter from Entertainment Weekly asked with an excited, gossipy expression. Vanessa and I exchanged glances before I replied. No, not yet. Although I would be blessed if I managed to land a girl like her. Edward's also a little bit okay. Maybe he needs a few tweaks, but I think I can fix him, Vanessa said playfully. The reporter and many others began showering us with questions. I stopped them and said firmly, I'll answer questions about the movie only. Let's end the questions about me and Vanessa now. Otherwise, I'll walk away. The reporters calmed down slightly after that. Is it true that the crew of Night Witches filmed the aerial battle in Serbia? A movie reporter asked. There's a statement from the Serbian government saying it was an honor for Entertain to use their country as the location for the aerial battle. It is true, I said, dropping a bombshell on the reporter. The aerial battle was filmed without any CGI. It was quite expensive since we had to build World War II Russian planes from scratch and then blow them up. Many thought I was emulating Christopher Nolan. However, I wasn't the director of the film. Kate Bush, a director with 5 years of experience, 4 short films, and 1 indie film in her filmography, was hired to create the biopic. She looked just like the 1970s English singer-songwriter with the same name from my previous world. Kate had quit her work after getting sexually harassed by someone at Miramax, which we all knew who. She was blacklisted from Hollywood for about 4 years before Paige convinced her to return and became the director for the movie. Paige worked with the director before and knew of her capability, so she trusted her with the production. Although I planned the aerial battle and the war scenes, Kate was responsible for everything else. She has talent that I wish she would hone further. There were a lot of talents which were blacklisted by Hollywood execs for stupid and dubious reasons. Many talented actors quit halfway because of the high cost of living in LA and the rampant nepotism hiring practice in the industry. Thanks to social media, a lot of them started to produce their own skits and uploaded them on YouTube, or entertain videos for monetization. Thanks to that, I managed to discover many talented actors and writers and brought them to the company. Back at the theater, Vanessa and I knew that if we vaguely confirmed our feelings for each other during the premiere, it would help with the marketing of the movie. It was a manipulative move since we were already dating, but it's Hollywood, baby. The more people talked about us, the more exposure the movie would get. It took $50 million to produce the film, so we had to earn around $80 million to break even. Any plans for Universal Pictures after the acquisition is complete? A reporter asked. There are no plans to change what the company has been doing, but I'm planning to raise the number of original screenplay productions. I want to support the creativity that has been overlooked in the past 2 years since the study came out. Are you referring to the Economics of Motion Picture study conducted by SNL Kagan? The reporter was surprised to hear I quoted the research paper. Films that cost more than $90 million to make generally produce the greatest profit, the report found. SNL Kagan found that the 83 films with budgets greater than $100 million averaged $247.3 million in net profit under a major studio distribution fee structure, followed by those in the $90 million to $100 million range with a $117.9 million average net profit. The 764 films in the study averaged $50.5 million in net profit. The shift to high-budget blockbusters and the decline of mid-range budget movies began during the 2010s, and the study played a part in that. Major studios stopped taking risks and focused on guaranteed profit blockbusters. While there were several exceptions, the production of mid-range movies became increasingly scarce. Buying Universal Pictures for $15 billion was a way to avoid that. Small studios suffered due to the uneven profit distribution when their movies were distributed by the Big Six studios: Walt Disney, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, Universal, Sony Columbia, and Warner Brothers. Universal was supposed to be acquired by Comcast back in 2010, along with NBC. However, due to my Starlink causing their customer base to drop by 85%, they could only buy NBC. Acquiring Universal wasn't easy, not because of the high acquisition cost, but due to the egos of the board members. They kept interfering with the acquisition, demanding more benefits and control, looking down on Entertain and me because I was young, too young. Their pride couldn't accept that. That's why none of them remained with the company. Everyone quit on their own after being forced to sell their shares. In Hollywood, the degeneracy knew no bounds. Oh, so you're a worshipper of Baphomet? The great demon lord has spoken directly to the high priestess, and he wants you to become Edward Newgate's subordinate. Oh, you're part of the Illuminati? Same thing, surrender everything to Edward Newgate. After I extracted every single thing they could offer, I sent them away to the wolves. Hollywood was a small town, and the other big studios decided to steer clear of anything I had my eyes on since they didn't want to face the same fate as Universal Pictures. Suffice to say, the Hollywood elite were scared of me. But if there's anything admirable about them, it's that they had very thick skin. It wasn't long before they changed their tune and welcomed Entertain as part of the Big Six studios. Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, Despicable Me, Addams Family, How to Train Your Dragon, The Purge, Halloween, all of these franchises came into my hands. It was amusing since Universal bought DreamWorks in 2008, and they were on the verge of going their separate ways in 2010. But because of my intervention, I managed to acquire both DreamWorks and Universal at the same time. DreamWorks was quite excited since I brought new animated technology with me, and I wasn't like Universal, which interfered with their work at every step. They felt stifled under Universal, unable to make any decisions. But with me, they really enjoyed working together. The studio retained its creative control even under Universal, and I had no intention of changing that. Their next movie, Rise of the Guardians, was co-produced by Entertain, and I voiced the character Jack Frost in the film. The movie was set to be released in late November, just in time for the Christmas spirit. Of course, when too much power congregates in a single person, there are many voices of opposition. It wasn't too much to bear, but it became bothersome at times. Well, after a decade, they would finally realize the benefits of what I was doing. Night Witches opened with an impressive $8 million at the box office on its opening night. It grossed over $40 million on its opening weekend, with only a 30% drop-off the following week. Page was thoroughly shocked by the success of the movie. By the time the film finished screening, it was projected to have earned around $250 million in box office. Since I already bought Universal, I didn't have to share the distribution profit with anyone other than the cinema alliances, which took 30%. The main reason I bought Universal was because I didn't want to share the profits my movies made with the other studios. The Big Six relentlessly tried to bully Entertain while it was still in its infancy. Now, they didn't even dare to look in our direction. Night Witches was part of the World War II biopic collection I had planned for the company. Following this would be The Imitation Game, along with stories about Alan Turing, Oppenheimer, Curie, and many more hidden figures of the World War II era. I also decided to reboot The Addams Family on Netflix. There were a lot of projects in pre-production right now, which led to an influx of invitations from talent agencies to go to a party and actresses sliding into my DMs. The premiere ended on a high note, and no one was sent to the basement. The actresses in the movie did invite me to a private after-party, but I rejected their offers. You must have been so proud of yourself when a lot of beautiful girls throw themselves at you. Vanessa rolled her eyes and snarked as we drove home. I smirked and said, They saw me as their ticket to stardom. They don't mind throwing their bodies at me if they can get it. But the only body I want thrown against mine is yours. Vanessa snorted, a smile creeping on her lips. She acted indifferent and said, Too bad for them. I have already gotten the most perfect boyfriend ever. You think I'm a fixer-upper? I'm not letting that go. I shrugged slightly. Oh, come on. You know I'm joking when I say that. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.